So for people who don't know your background, you're actually from Washington, D.C., correct?
I am a D.C. guy, Rockville, Maryland, to be specific. And I had the good fortune of playing for Morgan Wooten at DeMatha High School. And so, you know, I certainly know of Howard University and the prestige and what it stands for. But then it gets to be even a smaller world in this basketball world. Kenny Blakeney, the coach at Howard, I recruited him to Duke University back in the 90s. And then he was an assistant coach on my staff at the University of Delaware in the late 90s. And so Kenny and I go way back. And when he got the job a year ago, one of the things we talked about was, you know, to help him and get his program going. I said, hey, let's do a home and home. Let's do a home and home. We'll come to Howard. We'll come and play. And we had the date where they were going to come to us December 27th this year, 2020. And we were going to return the game the following year. We didn't know what date yet, even though Kenny was really throwing out MLK Day. With what we saw in Minneapolis and what has ensued after that, about a week after Minneapolis and George Floyd, I called Kenny. I said, Kenny, what about us coming on MLK Day, January 2021? I said, I don't know what we can do all around the game right now on this initial call, but I think it'd be really powerful on a lot of fronts. And we partnered with When We All Vote, a nonprofit that Michelle Obama started in 2018. Chris Paul is a co-chair of the organization. And there's a Howard University graduate who really runs the outreach. I introduced it to the ACC about a week ago. Tony Bennett at Virginia actually told me Wednesday on our weekly call that he connected with WWAV, When We All Vote, and registered his whole team to vote by way of this operation. Us and Howard are going to get on a Zoom call together next week and do the same thing, and keep that being kind of the impetus moving forward, where our young guys kind of now, by way of social media, because of COVID, we're not together, to kind of, you know, make sure young people, really not just young people, all people, really get out and vote November 3rd. And it's been neat to see how that has really become, there's momentum behind that, obviously, right now, which I think is important. And so, you know, I think I mentioned to you last week when we talked, you know, for our university to be on the Howard University campus on MLK Day in Washington, D.C., and get this, Stephen, 2 days before the inauguration of the president.
Wow.
You know, that we play on the 18th. The 20th is the inauguration of the president.
Right.
If D.C. ain't buzzing, it's going to be buzzing. Right. And so I'm very excited about it. Now, it's in the midst of the ACC season, so I could play at Duke on Saturday, Howard on Monday, and North Carolina at home on Saturday. But that's all right. And you know, so we're excited about it, trying to learn more about maybe what we can do with that platform. I did propose it to the ACC coaches about a week ago. I think because it's late and many of their schedules are filled.
Yeah.
I think it was a little late, and I just wanted them to know what I was going to do and get them in the loop. But there's some interest on that moving forward, but we're honored to do it and represent Notre Dame and the ACC to play on the Howard campus January 18th.
Yeah, no doubt. Like you said, I mean, it is kind of late in the season, for that, late in the scheduling season. But definitely, I think when it was first announced, I think a lot of people in the HBCU community were like, well, we already played these games against Power Fives and things like that. What would be the difference? But I think, once everyone and everybody said, well, if it happened to be ACC school coming to an HBCU or a home and a home, now that would be something different, and that would be quite different. And that turns out that's exactly what we have. It's happened a couple times before. I think Carolina may have played at Hampton 90s, and I think Bethune-Cookman may have hosted Carolina, I think, too, around the same time when Vince Carter was there. But it doesn't happen very often, even though the conferences and the HBCU conferences are really a lot on the East Coast, the MEAC, and also as well as the CIAA. Just talk about have you guys thought about anything that you're going to do? Because again, you got your game on Saturday, you got your game on Monday, and there's travel and all of that as well. Are you guys going to be doing anything? There's a lot of, obviously right now with COVID, everything's kind of in the air, but are you guys going to maybe take take the guys on some sightseeing trips and kind of immerse them in some things that, DC has to offer besides just the game?
There's no question. And you're right about, you mentioned, we have had HBCU schools on our campuses in the ACC, and they're guarantee games, and many of those schools have to play a bunch of them to pay their budget. I had to do that at the University of Delaware, quite frankly. I've kind of been in that, bro, when you're a mid-major. The last time an ACC school played on the road was at Miami, played at Savannah State in 2013. I was curious. You're right about Vince Carter, Carolina going back. That was back in the 90s. But my feeling was, why can't we go to them? They always come to us. And why can't we go to them in the midst of this? So we're, now as far as game day, could we get an audience with some legislators, both the Howard and Notre Dame team, to talk about some hot button issues? Coaches out of the room. Young people get in there and talk, because I think it's been really powerful to listen. And I think Kenny Blake would say, listen to my team express themselves. Now I have I think, an interesting dynamic. Half my team's white, half my team's black. It makes for a very interesting discussion in the midst of these. And I wish they were here in summer school where we could do it face to face, but COVID's jammed us up there. One of the things I mentioned to Kenny, we're going to have this voting initiative, but that ends November 3rd. The election's November 3rd. The game is the 18th of January. I really think we need to consider doing some kind of outreach with the police, the DC police. We have got, a real breakdown there. And could we do something? And Kenny and I have talked about this offline, unofficially. Could we do something by the time we get to that game? It's very raw now, our relationship with the police. Right? Rightfully so, but it is. But we're going to have to talk about that. Or could we somehow be a bit of a, I don't want to say peacemaker, but a bridge between the community and the police in DC specifically? So Kenny and I have talked about that after the election. What could be the initiative, by game day and all of that. But I think we're still putting together the plans. I really look forward to our team and the Howard team interacting through the whole fall. Hopefully, it's going to be by Zoom, obviously, but, to interact with some other young people other than your teammates in your circle. So, there's some good things. There are more good things we can do around this game. I believe it's going to be picked up on national TV, maybe Fox Sports 1. Somebody mentioned that Gus Johnson, who I believe is a Howard graduate, could do the play-by-play. So, with that platform, let's get creative and make it a really cool. But for me, being a DC native, growing up in Washington, D.C., and knowing what Howard University means and stands for, it's powerful for me personally to be on that campus with my team and the University of Notre Dame on MLK Day. That's really powerful.
Right. And earlier in the week when we talked about Coach Blakeney and your relationship with him. You guys go back a ways since you recruited him. You revealed you still remember his address from where he was growing up, so that was pretty cool. The discussion has been going on a lot as of recently, and I'd like to get your thoughts on this about HBCUs you know, especially at the Division I level, being able to compete for players. And obviously, you know, you're in college basketball, you know, the competition for players and top level players, the higher up you go, it's an ongoing thing, 24/7. HBCUs haven't had a lot of luck grabbing those guys. Last year, when Coach Blakeney did get a chance to have Joshua Christopher and Makur Maker on the campus, it was a really big deal. What do you think? Do you think that if there is someone that an HBCU that could land a top 50 or top 25 recruit, do you think what chances do you think that it might be Coach Blakeney over there at Howard University?
Well, if anybody could do it, it would be Kenny Blakeney, and I think he could do it. I saw the article on ESPN the other day about top prospects, you know, not just being locked into Power 5 opportunities.
We wrote that first, by the way. I gotta make sure I get you on the HBCU Gameday mailing list. We wrote that a couple weeks ago. They're kind of late on it, but go ahead.
Were they late on that? That's, you know, they stole your idea. I feel you.
I mean, you know, this is our thing, but yeah. I definitely wrote the same article.
I think it's very realistic because the movement we have in our country now, which is really cool and really powerful and really neat to see, you know, it is very realistic that the talented young kids, the next generation of them, have been so affected by what's going on that, you know, just because we have a better practice facility than Howard and we play on it, I don't know. I'm not sure if that's going to be a difference maker for some young people. And to be honest with you, I think it'd be cool. I think it would really be cool. So the trend moving forward, as you reported, probably 2 weeks ago, very realistic, and I think it's going to really be explored by this next generation of prospects over the next couple of years.
Right. Well, definitely. Well, Coach, we definitely appreciate you for giving us your time and talking to us about it. You know, like I said, there was a lot of excitement about who was going to come where. A lot of people were throwing a lot of places out and things like that. I know just thinking about it, Coach Capel over at Pittsburgh, his father coached is a HBCU guy, coached at North Carolina A&T and Fayetteville State University. A lot of people were thinking that kind of he was the one that floated it out there, but glad we got it on the record that you are the ACC coach that's putting that out there. So that's pretty cool. We'd love to see that. There's a lot of matchups that a lot of people would love to see. So we'll see what comes out of it. But I appreciate you for coming on with us. And anytime, you're welcome back. And we'll probably get a chance to see you guys on MLK Day, depending on what COVID decides to do with the world. So,
well, Stephen, it's an honor to be on with you. And you're right. I tried to drag the whole ACC with me on this. Maybe it was a little late to the game.
Somebody's got to be a leader, you know.
So. I'm not going to let up. I promise you I'm not going to let up. We're going to have a new commissioner, as you saw. John Swaffer is going to announce his retirement. Maybe in the midst of all of those things, we'll in 2022 it'll be different. But it's got to start somewhere. And again, we're honored, and I know we should get on a couple times before the game on January 18th. I'd love to get back on with you, and everybody in Raleigh, stay safe down there, and you know, hopefully we're all trying to get our players back and get them into a routine. We miss them. Yeah. We miss working with them every day. The Zoom stuff's getting old, right, Stephen? It's getting old,
yeah,
baby.
We're zoomed out. We're all zoomed out. Well, on that note, I appreciate you so much, Coach Brey. We'll see you down the line. This is SJG for HBCU Gameday.